Alright, man, worst punishments you... Alright, YouTube, worst punishments in human history. I've literally had to take the same part of the video like 15 fucking times because my OBS just keeps unrecording, like stops recording, but whatever. Let's see if it works this time. Let's get it. Like and sub up.
We, the makers of this video, in no way support or condone the actions of the subjects featured. Impalement. Impalement is a long-known torment practice and a capital punishment that has been practiced since before humans began building cities. A long, sharp, and most likely greased stake would be used longitudinally or transversely, and the stakes would be left in the open, most likely outside a city, to strike fear into the hearts of the people passing by. In antiquity, it was the most preferred method of fear-mongering among the Assyrians, especially Emperor Ashurbanipal. In the late Middle Ages, Vlad Dracul, Prince Wallachia, earned the title Vlad the Impaler and wore it with pride. For longitudinal impalement, the stake would be beneath the elevated prisoner and inserted in between their legs. The gravity then would make sure the spike would run through them, avoiding major organs like the heart, lungs, and spleen, and exiting through the skin of the shoulder, neck, or if they are truly unlucky, the lower part of the skull. A person could survive like this for days, if not weeks.
Weeks! They could survive like that for weeks. What the fuck? Could you imagine just sitting there on like a piece of wood or just like a metal rod, completely impaled for weeks? There's no way. That can't be true. There's no way. There's no way.
The stake would be pierced through the torso, and then the stake would be hoisted up vertically.
They would literally die instantly. There's no way. No chance.
The garrote.
That can't be true.
The prisoner was forced to sit on a small chair-like structure made with a slightly elevated platform attached to an upright pole that had 2 holes bored into it. Then their neck would be pushed into the backside pole like they were about to get a dental checkup, only this would be a more breathtaking experience. The prisoner's neck would be aligned to the holes on the pole, and a rope would be run through them to create a loop around their neck. On the other side of the pole, a stick would be introduced in the loop, and the executioner would twist the stick to tighten the rope so that they can take their breath away. Thanks to historical museums and spy movies like James Bond, punishing someone for information or a confession is considered an elaborate and complex business that requires a degree of understanding in mechanical engineering and human anatomy. But that wasn't always the case. Such was the case of the garrote, which was used for hundreds of years in Spain as a method to carry out a death sentence. There is historical evidence that the garrote was invented by the Romans in the 1st century BCE. They used to punish the conspirators of the Second Catalan Conspiracy. Spain and Portugal also used it during the Dark Ages, the Spanish Inquisition, and it was brought to the Americas by the conquistadors. The garrote was infamously used to end the life of the Inca Emperor Atahualpa. King Ferdinand VII put the spotlight on the garrote by appointing it as the exclusive standard form of the death penalty in 1813 to replace hanging. Unlike modern hanging, which is considered one of the most humane forms of punishment by death, hanging in the 19th century or earlier was crude and irregular, and people suffered for too long before dying. It was
literally what's the difference between hanging someone and them strangling in midair, and then just like fucking tying someone down to a chair and they strangle in the chair? Literally no difference. Bro, that's something about like old ass people, like people in like the 1700s, bro. They were so fucking stupid, bro. Like the way that they thought about certain shit just made no sense at all, bro. Like, how do you come to the conclusion that tying someone down in a chair and pulling a rope around their neck and tightening it until they strangle to death is better than just hanging someone in the air and them dying by not being able to breathe, like hanging? Literally the same shit, bro. That's what I'm talking about.
The case until an Irish doctor named Samuel Houghton devised a way to cause immediate death by the drop in 1866. Interestingly, the garrote was introduced in Spain by Napoleon during the Napoleonic Wars of 1808 to 1814, while Ferdinand VII was imprisoned by Napoleon. The garrote was considered the best method to quash the Spanish guerrilla warriors, priests, and anybody else who tried to inspire an uprising against the French invaders. The records are patchy even for the 20th century.
That literally looks no better than someone hanging. That literally looks no better. That is equally as traumatizing. There's no better. There's literally nothing better about that.
But at least 736 people were garroted during the 19th century, including 16 women. The last public garroting happened in 1897, and a total of 96 people were put on the death chair between then and 1935. 80 Freemasons were garroted in 1935 alone in the city of Malaga for not abandoning their religion to join the armed forces. This was one of the major reasons for the civil discourse that followed in Spain. The last garroting happened in 1974.
Their religion to join the armed forces.
The wheel.
So another one I'm talking about.
Also
bro.
known as the
Stupid fuck.
Catherine wheel or breaking wheel, the wheel was a popular form of public capital punishment during the Middle Ages.
I actually think
Now, it's
I've-
hard to trace who invented it
Yo,
or
I
when.
think I actually have actually heard about this in history class. I could be wrong, but I think they like tie them to the wheel like in like a star type shape, and then they just roll them until you die. Maybe I'm tripping, but I swear I've seen this before.
But the earliest record comes from the author Gregory of Tours in the 6th century CE. Now, the Catherine wheel got around pretty good, traveling a large part of the globe, as its use has been documented in Austria, Britain, France, Germany, Rome, the Ottoman Empire, Russia, Sweden, and the colonized Indian subcontinent. There was no standard way to use the wheel, and it could mean from being trampled by a moving wheel to being tied on crossbeams attached to the center of the beams. The punishers would begin by breaking the leg bones of the prisoner, and slowly break their other bones, one, by either using clubs or the wheel itself.
Oh, yeah, I did
A
not
Jewish
know
person named Jonah endured this torment for 4 days and 4 nights in 1348, marking him as the longest survivor of the
4 days? You would rather just die, right? You would rather just get it over with and die. That's 4 fucking days, bro. How did they survive for so long? Because the first punishment was literally like the probably the worst one we've seen so far. Like they would literally like spread your legs and like you would just fall on top of like a stake. You would just be impaled through your entire body. How do you survive a week like that? I don't even believe that. I'm gonna be honest, bro. I don't believe that. I call that. There's no way a human survived a week being fully impaled from the bottom up, especially if it came through the back of their head. You're dead. Nah.
The wheel.
Way. No
He
way.
was left to
Maybe
bleed to
this.
death
They can
like
survive
most
this
of
for
the
maybe like a
victims.
couple days because you're just breaking your bones. But
Rats,
still, yeah, bro.
loving punishment
That's
machines.
still a stretch.
You know, rats have been following humans for centuries through every new city and country. While most of us have tried to exterminate them and some of us tried to domesticate them, some weaponize them. Roman Emperor Nero's mental health is a huge question mark in history. He was the earliest known person to use these rodents as his tool of justice.
Mental health question.
He would have the mouth of a bucket full of starving rats tied to the stomach of his prisoners, and then heat would be applied on the bottom of the bucket.
Wait, what?
Earliest known person to use these rodents as his tool of justice.
Excuse me?
He would have the mouth of a bucket full of starving rats tied to the stomach of his prisoners, and then heat would be applied on the bottom of the bucket. Hungry and burning, the desperate rats would claw and chew through whatever was in its path to escape the heat. Centuries later, medieval Germany
What
upgraded
the fuck? Who comes up with that? Who actually thinks of that? There's no fucking way he just sits down and thinks, oh, I'm gonna collect starving rats, and then I'm gonna burn them so they eat through my victim. What the fuck was wrong with these people? There's no way. That can't be true. That can't be true. There's no way. Who comes up with that?
the torment method by replacing the bucket with a metal cage with a pocket for hot charcoals at the bottom to make the anticipation, anxiety, and torment itself last longer so they could get the desired confession out of the prisoners. Drawing inspiration.
Oh, you're not dying. You're not dying. They're just getting a confession out of you. Unless you just sat there for weeks and weeks and weeks, you're not dying. They're just trying to get a confession out of you. You would literally have to sit there for weeks for that rat to eat through you. Because, bro, a rat is literally no bigger than my hand. My hand is fucking huge, and there's no way a rat is this big. So, for a rat to be, like, this big, as big as my fist, bro, that motherfucker would have to eat for at least a week to get through that shit, bro.
From the same concept, medieval Germany introduced the rat chair. The prisoner was forced to sit upright while a metal cage teeming with hungry rats was strapped around their face instead of their belly. During the Elizabethan times, the rat dungeons of the London Tower became infamous for the horrors that caused dreaded fear among the Catholics.
Around your face? Fucking around your face, bro. Oh, yeah, okay, that would probably kill you. That would probably kill you. Because, like, bro, you think about that shit, bro. Those rats definitely have infections, bro. Especially back then, bro, when no medicine was around, bro. Those rats definitely have infections. Those shits have rabies. Those shits have everything, bro. And that shit is literally, like, they probably have, like, your mouth clawed open or some bullshit, too. Some bullshit just to make it that much worse. Because you're going to get sick as fuck anyways. You're either going to die from them eating into your brain or, like, you're just going to get sick as fuck. That's bad, bro.
living in the city.
That's really
Hidden
bad.
beneath the Tower of London are several dungeons responsible for its bloody reputation.
It must have been terrifying for prisoners to be led down into the dungeons where they would have heard other prisoners screaming.
The cells were built at a high-level mark in total darkness. The prisoners would hear rats scurrying towards their cells from the River Thames as the tide flowed in. Things reached a new level in South America during the 20th century as rats became quite popular among South American dictators, such as Castelo Branco, who ruled Brazil from 1964 to 1985, the 5 dictators of Uruguay from 1973 to 1986, and General Jorge Rafael Videla in Argentina from 1876 to 1983.
Yo, they know that there's more dangerous animals than rats, right? Surely. Like, do they not realize that you could put a fucking prisoner in there with like a tiger? And you're dead as fuck. Way easier than a fucking rat. Did they not know that? Because, like, bro, tigers were alive back then, right? Unless I'm just stupid as fuck, bro. Tigers were alive back then, for sure. Tigers were definitely alive. So they could have put they could have put those people in there with fucking tigers. Not saying tigers any better, but it's just quicker, bro. You're gonna die faster. And you might as well die faster. You're gonna die. You know what I'm saying? Probably not gonna get a disease. And even if you do, you're gonna die faster anyways. I mean, a snake? Bro, a snake is just not, like, as high of a level in the world as, like, a fucking lion, bro. Like, yeah, it'll fuck you up, especially if it's like one of those snakes that like wraps around you and like strangles you. But still, yeah, bro, I feel like the best predicament is being put in there with like a fucking lion or a tiger.
But the most harrowing accounts of rat punishments are from Augusto Pinochet, who ruled Chile from 1973 to 1990 and created the punishment called rectoscope. A hot metal pipe would be used to push rats down towards the rear of the prisoner, and just like Nero's version, the rats had no other way to escape the heat but to burrow through everything in its path.
That would be so
the
bad.
Rack.
Oh, that would be so bad. Wow.
In some parts of the world, cracking knuckles publicly is considered rude. But in medieval times, it was all the rage. Like literally, they would crack all your joints while you'd be in a rage. The rack was invented by the Duke of Exeter in 1420 and was used to stretch the prisoners beyond their body's limit until their joints would pop. The objective was to extract confessions and incriminating information from suspected traitors, heretics, and conspirators. The prisoner would be laid down on a wooden frame with their limbs tied to the rollers on either end. When rollers begin to turn, they would pull the prisoner's joints apart.
We have bones popping.
Yo, at what point does your body not just like separate? You really couldn't do that much with that punishment, because I feel like most people are not going to have the strength to be able to just like their body's just going to separate in the middle, bro. Like, you're just going to tear them in half. I guess, like, I mean, yeah, the rats one is by far the most creative one here. That's fucking like insane, bro. The fact that like people like, who the fuck sits down and thinks, yeah, I'm gonna burn starving rats into this guy's ass? Think about that shit. I'm gonna burn starving rats up this guy's ass. What the fuck?
Joints ripping, tendons coming undone.
Anne Askew, a 16th century English writer and poet, a friend of Catherine Parr and a devout Protestant, decided to champion her beliefs among other women in her social circle. She was soon arrested for reading and citing excerpts of the Bible because somebody snitched on her. As King Henry VIII was still hopping back and forth between Catholicism and Protestantism, Anne was charged with being a heretic and was punished on the rack. They asked her again and again to give up the names of the women she congregated with, as they kept turning the rollers, but the lady didn't budge, unlike all of her joints. Anne Askew was paralyzed when they took...
Yo, imagine if people were this strong on snitching nowadays, bro. Pooh Shiesty, YB, bro, everybody, bro. Nobody would be in jail. Imagine motherfuckers were this strong, bro. Dirk would literally have nothing to worry about.
Took her off the rack, and then they put her on a fiery stake. But she would have been alive if she also had kept her mouth shut in front of her very Catholic husband, who sold her out. Various forms of the rack pop up across different countries, and England itself used the rack well up to 17...
No. Oh, fuck no. Hey, if my significant other sells me out over religion for me to go be tortured and ripped in half? Oh, fuck no. Hey. Yo, that's so overly fucked up. That is so overly fucked up, bro. How? Like, if you're truly in love with someone, right? Okay. If you're truly in love with someone, how do you find out their beliefs and then willingly snitch on them for them to go be tortured and endure like fucking capital punishment at the time? How do you do that? How do you bring yourself to that point? That's just inhumane, right? Because, bro, think about that. You spent so much time with this person, you got married, which actually, take that back. Most people back here, like in these times, bro, they didn't even like think shit of marriage, bro. Like, they just kind of met someone, fucked around, and then like got married, bro. They didn't give a fuck.
There is no known number of how many endured the rack, but one of the most famous victims was the English rebel Guy Fawkes, who suffered this agonizing torment. The Iron Maiden. Now, although the Iron Maiden is one of the most recognized and widely present medieval torment devices in pop culture, there is no evidence that the closet big enough to fit an adult person with iron spikes in the interior walls was ever used in the Middle Ages.
None captures the imagination more than the infamous Iron Maiden. A metal casket towering nearly 7 feet tall.
I've heard of this
Its
before.
exterior features a woman's face, one allegedly inspired by the Virgin Mary. And when it's opened, there's an unholy...
Yo, how do you design a torture chamber in the face of the Virgin Mary, bro?
surprise.
The earliest account was written by the historian Johann Philipp Sabinkes in a guidebook to the city of Nuremberg, cited the use of the Iron Maiden in 1515. He mentioned that the spikes were deliberately kept small enough to keep the prisoner alive and bleed slowly for 2 days until death.
There would be 20 strategically placed spikes that were meant to impale the body, but in such a way that it wouldn't kill the human inside, only prolong their agony. It would go into places that were very painful.
Bro, see,
but
this is
not
what I'm talking about.
particularly deadly.
They were smart enough to know exactly where they could hit somebody with like a spear, right? And not kill them, just torture them. Bro, people back then were so fucking smart, but so fucking stupid. Like, I don't know how to explain it, bro. If you know what I'm trying to say, you know what I'm trying to say.
However, he hasn't cited any sources for his account, and there was no Iron Maiden known to exist from that period. In fact, the first known Iron Maiden was produced based on Sabinkes' account in Nuremberg, and one was exhibited at the World's Fair in 1894 Chicago.
Alright, bro, I gotta wrap up the video here. I gotta go to football practice. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, like the video, man. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, man, with that being said, I'll see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the first reaction, by the way. See you later.